you are listening to CPA Career Path Podcast with Rosie Flaherty, CPA MSA. This is episode number 41. We continue the conversation with Michael Blood to learn more about his CPA journey. So when you decided to move, what made you move to bigger firm instead of a smaller one?
Yeah, so I was looking for opportunities in St. Louis, and I had a really good connection at EY, who have an office here in Clayton, which is just outside of St. Louis City. And basically, kind of through that connection and then multiple interviews, it just seemed like the right fit. And I started there. It was right after Labor Day of 2021. So, yeah, and then once again, not too far away, I joined the EY family.
So when you joined EY, you stayed there for only 1 year. What did you learn at EY during that year?
I learned a lot. So that was going back to when I had my internship at Deloitte. They had all like these very large teams, and in the EY office in St. Louis, they have some large teams for some big clients. Like we're talking 15, 20 people for staffing for some of these jobs. And, you know, these $1 billion revenue companies that, you know, have to follow all the SEC reporting requirements and whatnot, you know, it takes a while to go through all the financial data and make disclosures and inform your opinion and whatnot. Yeah, I mean, sorry, what was the question again? I kind of went off there, but
the question I asked is that what did you learn from EY?
Yes. Okay, that's right. Yeah, no, so I learned kind of how to operate on a large team. I learned more about the first client I actually was staffed on was this company that went public. So I helped with them basically kind of having this like SPAC acquisition. So that was really interesting, and all the different S filings you have to do and all these announcements. So that was really exciting because I had never done that before. And then I was placed on some large manufacturing clients where, you know, you go and you visit these giant warehouses and factories, and you see all these intricate machines, and you're just like, so like how did they make that? And like just really the scope of the companies and how massive they were, and how sometimes how complex they were as well. I also worked in healthcare, where I was staffed on some large healthcare companies, and a lot of them still had COVID programs where were still reimbursing, expenses that they had, and they were able to then get money from the federal government and whatnot. So was really, spent a lot of time deep in some healthcare paperwork and whatnot. So, you know, that the healthcare space is complicated. Not gonna lie.
You have experience in, I would say, regional size, and then you have experience at like national size, and then you also have experience at international size firms. So compare 3 different firm size. Can you just share with me the advantage, disadvantage of working at 3 different firm size?
Yeah, so I guess starting with the largest international, I mean, you're gonna audit companies that you've heard of, that you see day in, day out, whether it's in commercials or out and about advertisements. I mean, these are large, recognizable companies. And that also just, they're really large, so there's a lot of work too. And also the materiality is a factor. Working at a large company with larger clients, you're probably going to have more selections. You're probably going to have to test more to gain, reasonable assurance over certain areas. So, expect a lot of, just a lot of volume, I guess. And then more moving on to like national firms, companies are going to be smaller. However, they still require a lot of attention. You're still going to be uh, busy with the work, but you might get a little bit more exposure to working with the client. When I was at EY and back, yeah, I guess just with that EY, they, uh, the partners and the senior managers would handle all the communications with the client. But then when I was more at like CBiz, it was more like, okay, I'm not too many levels away from the client. So I would have a little bit more communication and actually have more exposure to um, developing those soft skills, and using those to your advantage and learning more about the company and being able to form a better opinion. So,
How about at the regional size?
yeah, I mean that's more with like Anders and whatnot during my internship, and that's even smaller. But just because it's smaller doesn't mean that these companies deserve, less attention, because they don't have the same level of reporting requirements with all like the different quarterly and annual, you know, filings you have to do. But, they might need more help with like, uh, because their accounting departments in the smaller firms, they're not as uh, like deep. They're not as well staffed or well trained sometimes. So you're looking at more of like kind of like helping them out more like I feel like it's a little bit more consulting than straight auditing and whatnot. If that makes sense a little bit. But
Yes, and also you just spent over 3 months at Anderson, so it's not long enough for you to go deeper to understand further about the firm. So that makes sense.
yeah, and it was an internship as well. So I'm still in college. So
That's the first internship. It's not
yeah,
like the second or third. So now, when you had so many experience in public accounting at different firm size, and then now you decide to go in private, what
yeah.
happened? Did public
Well,
just scare you away?
well, honestly, I kind of got a little burnt out from the busy seasons and the long hours, and I just kind of lost my passion there. Because when sometimes busy season doesn't really end um, in certain types of the year, and it's just continuance. Um, you just kind of like lose uh, levels of motivation, and you just kind of like get down because you're just overwhelmed by how much work there was. Um, so I actually took a couple months off, which was great. And then kind of wanted to see what I wanted to do. And then I landed with Bunzel, Distribution North America. So um, I had a connection there from a social club I was in here in St. Louis, and um, got some interviews, and those went really well, and got to meet um, the executives and management. I guess like the department leaders and whatnot, and it's been a hit. It's been a smashing success.
So, talking about burning out, how many hours did you work during busy season at EY as a senior?
It would vary. Some weeks, like early in busy season, the minimum was like 55. Now there were some weeks closer to deadlines and when things need to get done where I work 70 and 80, and it's like, and those are just billable hours. Sometimes it's like you're doing things where you're not even billing because it's just like admin work that you have to do. Um, so it was a lot of times, and
Yeah, we you and I will understand about billable hours. Can you explain for the audience who may not be familiar with what billable hours is?
yeah. So billable hours are hours directly charged to the client where you're working on client uh, client work where basically you are providing them a product, because our work papers at the end of the day that's what we use to then form our audit opinion.
Yeah.
And then basically there's non-billable hours where you have to do training at EY, or you had to respond to certain, like CPE training, continued professional education, or you had to, maybe I took some time like writing up an email, but I didn't, let's say it was a long, intricate email. Do I really need to charge the full amount of time of the email, or like, partial? And that's where there's like gray area, and it all depends on the company and client. So I don't want to make assumptions and whatnot, but there are times when you're working on, you know, clients and projects where you don't charge the full amount that it took, because you also want to, maintain the budget realistic. And, maybe I'm saying something I shouldn't, where, you just people bill everything, but that's not really how the industry works. So,
Yeah, the billable hours, we all always deal with the topic, don't eat your time. When people say
yeah.
don't eat your time, it means that if you work 5 hours on client, you should bill all 5 hours. But a lot of time you feel like, those 5 hours I spent 3 hours working on the job and 2 hours I'm just thinking and processing. Maybe I should not charge the client for those 2 hours. And so if you only charge 3 hours, it means you eat 2 hours. I remember this concept when I just got hired at CB's. That's what they brought up to me about eating the time. But did you have to eat your time a lot when you were at EY or at CB's?
Yeah, I mean, it just kind of happens, like, and like you said, like processing and rethinking, and then like time spent asking, you know, your manager or director or other seniors like questions, or like, hey, how should I approach this? Um, there's moments in a full day. Let's say, you start working at 8 a.m. and then you work till, this is during busy season, and you work till like 5 or 6, and then you break for dinner, and then you work later in the night. There's pockets of the day where you might not be, you know, actually working purely on the work paper. You're asking questions, you're looking up research, you're to understand, how do I audit certain areas, or, you have to take more time to learn how to use certain applications like IT applications, and uh, especially, with big data, it takes time to crunch and clean up the data before you actually can use it or pivot it and summarize it. So it's there's just, eating hours is known in the industry, and I'm sure it's like that in the I feel like in the law industry as well. I've had some friends who have mentioned similar things, but it's just kind of, it is what it is. So
Yeah, it is what it
it's
is.
not perfect. It's not perfect.
But it is challenging. I have to tell you, it is challenging in public accounting when you have to focus on billable hours and non-billable hours. But now, hey, look at you. You're in private now. You don't have to worry about billable hours anymore.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. I have way better work-life balance in my current job. I have some busy weeks, but we're not talking, my busy weeks do not equal what I was experiencing in busy season. Um, I start my day 8, 8:30 sometimes, and you go through, and I have assigned projects I'm working on. I have different streams of of um of work that I'm different streams of work that I'm working on for different entities and in Bunzel, because it's a massive company. So they have all like these different entities that I am now doing internal controls assessments for, and I'm helping with acquisitions and some ESG reporting as well. And then, working with like the IT department to like also do testing on their applications that are all being used by the business. So a lot of different things. I wear a lot of hats at Bunzel. So
That's pretty cool. So it means you are learning a lot and have a lot of different experience. So now you work on public and you work on private. Can you just share with people what's the difference between public and private accounting?
yeah, so public accounting, you like I was at EY or CBiz or the previous firms I was at too for my internships. Basically, you are completely independent. You are forming an opinion based on the information they give you, based off of findings. And as that independent third party auditor, um, you give your opinion. It goes in the like the 10K and for SEC registered clients. Um, Now, private, now that I'm on the private side, I am not independent. I work for the company. I don't bill hours like I would in as a third party independent accounting firm. I am internal. I still track how many hours I work on things and how long certain projects take and tasks within. But I am not charging the company. Um, they are paying me a salary and like an accounting firm, but basically it's like I'm not generating money by giving my internal controls assessments and testing and conclusions on my day to day. So
That's really good answer. Very, very detailed on both sides, public and private. Is that going to be the same as external auditor and internal auditor? Or what's the difference between them?
yeah, so I work in internal controls, but then we also have an internal audit department, and they work as more of an independent verification department within the company, and we also have an external auditor. So Bunzel hires PwC to be their external auditor, but then we have internal auditors that then audit, inform, and release internal audit opinions and conclusions based on workings with inside the company. So it's not like some third party is completely like coming in and asking questions and figuring out like, okay, like what areas of the business are weak or strong, or where does there need to be improvements, or where can there be more value add opportunities for automation, innovation, enhancements, and whatnot. So that internal auditors, they actually I think they actually charge to the business, but it's like a different line item on the financial statements. Now, internal controls, we're kind of like under the finance department. I work really closely with our financial leaders. I work closely with not just on the corporate level, but also like the regional leaders and whatnot, and all the different entities that Bunzel owns. It's a very massive company, and they are based out of the UK, so they have different reporting requirements compared to a US publicly traded firm. So that's been, a learning curve for me. They're not required under the Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002, so they have different internal controls requirements. However, there are new developments within the United Kingdom that there will be some type of SOX environment and disclosure related to that coming in 2026. So we're preparing, we're getting things ready, and eventually moving more to that SOX internal controls type of environment. So
Yeah, Have you ever thought about being a teacher? Because I feel like you explain the items very well. I feel like I'm just in the classroom right now, trying to understand difference between public and private, internal, external audit.
I don't know. I would love to be a professor like one day. I don't know, like um maybe on the side, I still like what I do, but
I know.
I do like teaching, and I
Yeah.
used to like tutor and train people.
Yeah.
I really at Mizzou, like when I was in the accounting program, I would like there was a whole summer program where we work on this big accounting uh like fake company accounting project, and I was like one of like the tutors in that program, and I just like helped explain it to people, and that was fun. So I don't know, maybe I'll get into it one day, but I love education, I love learning. So
I think you did a very good job answering all my questions about public and private, explain about the difference. But those topics kind of boring. Now asking you about something fun. You mentioned about UK,
okay.
and I know that you study abroad in London, right?
Yeah, so I actually studied abroad twice.
Whoa!
I'm very honored to have those opportunities through University of Missouri. They have a great study abroad program there. But summer of 2016, I studied international business in Prague, Czech Republic. And then in January of 2019, I was able to study abroad in London. And that's where we got to visit um, some UK accounting firms, visit their offices. And we got to go to the headquarters of IFRS, which for the non-accountants out there, that is basically the global financial reporting, I guess, government body that is located in the UK. And that's actually now what Bunzl falls under, because they're under IFRS. So it all worked out.
Yeah, it's my LinkedIn. And I was like,
Yeah.
wow. So now you start in college, you went to London, and now you go all different jobs, different accounting firms, and now you go to the company that actually related to UK back in when you studied abroad.
Yeah, that's how life works. This CPA career path has put me all over the place, but here I am, and it all kind of makes sense in the end, I guess.
I know. Talking about something fun, what do you do for fun now when you have a lot of free time? Don't have to worry about busy season.
Oh, I mean, I love spending time with my family, my friends, my girlfriend. I love playing sports, whether it's basketball, softball, golf, soccer. Um, I've tried pickleball and tennis this past year and getting into that. Basically, I'll do anything. I'm competitive by nature. That's just kind of how I am. But I also just have so much fun playing, and the camaraderie. It's just, it makes me happy. So sports are probably how I spend most of my free time. So
that's good. That's good. You need to be happy so you can do a better job. So
yeah, no, it's all about it's all about balance. Like I love how my current job allows me to, like, if I have a basketball game in the league at 5:30, I can leave the office because it's like the place is like 20 minutes away. I can leave the office, wait well before 5 and get there at a reasonable time, warm up and everything. And they're not like, oh, like you have to be on the clock until 5 or 5:30. They're like very flexible, and it's all like, get your work done. And we understand everyone has a life outside of Bunzl, and because during busy season for some of my companies, it was really hard to actually have a life outside of work. Just because you're working so many hours a day, and you're like, oh man, the day's gone, and I didn't go to the gym. I wasn't able to just chill because it's just so much of your time. And so a lot better balance now.
I know. I literally just worked until 11:30 p.m. last night, and then got up this morning and get back to work at 8 a.m.
That's what it takes sometimes. Yeah.
I know, exactly. The key is that you need to get the job done. But for people who listening to this conversation, I just want to emphasize that yes, public accounting is maybe stressful, maybe overwhelming, but we can find a balance. You don't have to change to private accounting to find the balance. So, but
Yeah. And then,
go ahead.
oh, I was just gonna say, in public, there's swings. There's times like sometimes during the summer and fall where it's not really that hectic, and you might have summer hours where if you work all your hours Monday through Thursday, you could be off Friday, or like, hey, like, you know, leave work early, or it's a lot more flexible, and all firms are different. So
Yep, yep. Then I know you're one of young people in my CPA journey interview series. I'm wondering if you can give some advice to our peers how they can make this career better, or what you think they should try.
yeah, that's a good question. Well, I think the number one thing, if you're just getting into the industry, I mean, you want to be a sponge. You cannot be closed off to new ideas, new practices, and it's really like it's beneficial to put yourself out there, go to the networking events, go to company events, try to talk to people that maybe you might not always um, see day to day. But at least in my roles, it helps kind of knowing uh, everyone in the company. I'm an extrovert. I have a little bit of an advantage there. I know a good amount of accountants that are more introverted, where they kind of like just do their work, do what it takes, but they don't really try to make those connections. And I'm an example in itself of just like it's all about connections, and whether it's like people at the company, people outside of work, because you never know when those people are going to come back, and you never know who you make a good impression on. They're like, hey, well, this person, I was like a young professional, and someone thought well of me. I'm gonna go, put my recommendation to them and help them out. So it's like you gotta just go out there, meet people, and even if the job itself is difficult at times, just know that like we're not saving lives out here. Like we're not doctors, we're not, we're not surgeons. So it's like at the end of the day, we have to get the job done, and we have to deliver a high quality product. But don't stress yourself out so much, and it's we'll make it through. And at the end of the day, as accountants, you kind of like have um, your years of experience, and like, oh, I've been through this many busy seasons. But at the end of the day, like we're all kind of the same. Like we all know the struggles and whatnot. So reach out to your peers, reach out to the people above you, reach out to the people below you. Grab from their experience, because it's. I just feel like even though Rosie, like we're in two different lines of business, we can just relate on so many aspects, because as accountants, we're kind of all in this together. So
yes, exactly. I agree. Talking about connections, it's just a funny story I want to share that 2 years ago, yeah, about 2 years ago, or a year ago, I went to the AICPA Engage event. I met this CEO, just randomly talk, asked him to be on my podcast back in June. Okay. We scheduled for the interview in November, and then delayed to December, and then delayed to February of this year. Somehow at that time, I never thought that I would work under his firm. And then I end up with working at his firm, and then I interview him literally just a week before my first day I start at the new job at his firm. So the interview just show up, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start working at the firm a week from now. You never know who's going to become your boss.
yeah, and that's just like you putting yourself out there, you going to the event, you talking to people, and I commend you for having this doing all these interviews and building up this platform to learn more about the CPA and accounting industry in itself, and just like you know making lifelong connections. So
Yes. Thank you so much for the interview today. I have learned so much about you about the CPA journey, and I hope the audience who listen to this podcast or this interview will learn a lot as well. Thank you so much, Michael.
Great. Thank you for having me, Rosie. Appreciate it.